the Democratic Party leaders seem to underestimate populism. You've got Bernie Sanders and AOC and David Hogg, who they're running more against the establishment Democrats so much than they are MAGA.
Bernie has been loyal and faithful to the party, but is this the face of the Democratic Party in 2028? It's Friday, and it's actually Good Friday. And welcome to our podcast, Real Polling in Real Time with Zogby. I'm John Zogby, and I'm here with Jeremy. How are you?
Hey, happy Good Friday, and I'm looking forward to the weekend. I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward actually to this conversation because remember the term "Feel the Bern"?
Oh yeah.
Coined by the Bernie Sanders campaign, and Americans, Democrats, were feeling it for a while, and now he's back, and he's pulling in huge crowds at a moment when you could say otherwise. The Democratic Party is in a funk everywhere, national, state, and local. But here's Bernie going out to Idaho, 12,000 people, 20,000 people, Salt Lake City, 40,000 in Los Angeles. He's accompanied in almost every instance by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known as AOC, and they're really riling up the fans. Are Americans feeling the burn? Is this a temporary thing, a passing fancy, or do you think it has legs?
I think those are excellent questions. Shall we dive into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. So I'll give my take on it, and then back to you. And then actually, we have some data on Bernie Sanders. So I definitely go back to the theme of populism. I've said this numerous times on the podcast. I think people sometimes underestimate. I'm going to say party leaders, especially. I'm going to be more specific. The Democratic Party leaders seem to underestimate populism. We saw that in the Trump victories, and we saw that with the rise of Bernie Sanders 2 times in 2016 and 2020. He appeared to be an unstoppable force. I mean, I remember when I was when the whole Bernie thing became viral. I was a part-time professor at a local art college, and it's funny, you see how teenagers and college students, one day they're not talking about something, and then all of a sudden they are talking about something, and you can tell that they caught the bug. And it almost happens like immediately. And so the kids in my class came in, and all of a sudden the students were talking about corporate PACs and super PACs. And to me, that was funny. I never heard teenagers talk like that. And they really had the burn. And so, I mean, that's just a testament to the appeal of populism. And if there's anybody who has that down more than Donald Trump, it's Bernie Sanders. He's still utilizing this form of politics and weaving it into speeches and policy and a vision, and he's still wildly successful. So you asked the question, does it have legs? Yes and no. It has legs so much that James Carville went on News Nation with Chris Cuomo and declared that the party should actually just split in 2. I don't know if he said that out of frustration or really meant that, but effectively he said, you've got Bernie Sanders and AOC and David Hogg, who they're running more against the establishment Democrats so much than they are MAGA, that James Carville said very frustratingly, just go out and form another party, call it the Urbanist Party, the Socialist Party. I actually think that could happen, because where does the Democratic Party go from here? And so I think it has legs in that sense. The big question is this: can Bernie do a third run? I don't know. Maybe he can. But if he can't, I don't think AOC is ready. And so I'd like you to respond to that or see what you
Well,
think.
the main question, does this movement and do these rallies, does it all have legs? The short answer is yes. Of course it does. Number one, there's been a strong progressive movement within the Democratic Party since 1968. And in fact, so strong that it's represented about half of the party faithful and the party activists, and have been very competitive in primaries, presidential primaries in particular. So, yes, this is a resurgence of the progressive left Democratic Party. Its most familiar face is Bernie, and Bernie's healthy. Does this mean another run for president? No, and it can't. It would automatically trigger the age issue, and that burned the Democratic Party very badly in 2024. So it doesn't mean a presidential run, nor do I believe it does or should mean a presidential run for AOC. It's possible Barack Obama at the convention 4 years before he accepted the nomination, the 2004 convention, he was still a state senator from Illinois, and 4 years later he's accepting the nomination. In AOC's case, a poll out recently showed her beating Chuck Schumer, the majority leader and longtime U.S. senator, congressman from New York, by 12 points in a New York Democratic primary. That's the route that she should take. That's, I think, a possibly winning route and helpful to redefining the Democratic Party. Thirdly, this movement has legs because otherwise, the Democratic Party is in terrible funk. There was a sense that they're not going to play with Trump this time the way they did the last time, which was coming right out of the chute with serious criticism and moves to impeach Trump. They were going to give him a honeymoon period. Well, sadly for them, that honeymoon period has turned out to be a nightmare for the Democrats, as we see the president running roughshod over civil rights, running roughshod over due process, running roughshod over eliminating necessary jobs, and so on. And where are the Democrats? So at this point in time, Bernie and AOC and those rallies are at least fomenting some positive feelings among Democrats. Where does it go from here? It really is anybody's guess. I suspect, Bernie has really never lost his popularity. He's been a loyal Democrat. Sometimes in the past, the progressive candidate has backed off and not endorsed the more establishment Democrat who's won the primary. Bernie has been loyal and faithful to the party, but is this the face of the Democratic Party in 2028? Not as a nominee, but certainly as the generator of any kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think we're by and large in agreement that the movement isn't going anywhere and that it has legs. Obviously, Bernie doesn't have much of a future as the nominee for 2028. But my question remains: who as he breathes fire back into the Democratic Party, who then takes over? That I don't think we know. So that's a major issue that the Democratic Party still faces. And then I do have to go back to Carville's comments that I saw this morning. I think that's something we could have explore as things move forward. But in the meantime, we have polling data from our latest poll, and what I have here, as you can see, is pretty powerful. First, rule of thumb for our listeners is when we look at public officials and we measure their favorability and their unfavorability, anybody who's not underwater, that is, has a higher percentage of unfavorable than favorable. Anybody who's not underwater, that's pretty good, because the standard is most people are underwater. So I'm zeroing in here, and overall voters, 45% rate Bernie favorably, versus 45% who rate him unfavorably. And so he's even. So I obviously we're going to go next to political parties and see how that plays out. Obviously, the Democrats are going to be higher, but to what extent? 80% of Democrats are favorable of Bernie Sanders or towards Bernie Sanders, and the lion's share of that is a very favorable rating over somewhat favorable. Independents are key, as always. 40% of independents rate him favorably. And when we look on the flip side of those who rate him unfavorably among independent voters, it's 45% who rate him unfavorably. So he's about even among independent voters. I think the next thing I want to look to are the youth, because that's usually the driver of his feeling the Bern. And what we have here is 52% of those under 30 rate him favorable. And then the last thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to look at the crosstabs. I want to see locationally where are people feeling the Bern the most, and I have a sense I think I know where that is. And so we're going to go here to location. We're going to look at urbans and suburbanites, and those who are rural. Of course, those who are rural, they're not feeling the Bern so much. You've got 50% who rate him unfavorably. But when I look at large cities, he's got a 59% favorable rating. And so it's in the urban centers that you're going to find that movement most intense.
So I think what the Democrats need to know is not so much Bernie as a stalking horse, but Bernie as a representation of the heart and soul of the party. What's behind these big crowds? If the big crowds are going to be the same old elite, then the party's in trouble. But if we look around at these crowds and look at the numbers, and we see working voters, middle income voters, gains among white voters, for that matter, reestablishing the higher percentage of support among Hispanics and among blacks, then what we're seeing is a party that can mend itself. But if Bernie is going to post the same kinds of numbers in terms of favorability and unfavorability as, say, Kamala Harris or Joe Biden towards the end of his tenure, then it's just going to be same old, same old. So what are you showing in some of those categories? Let's start with middle income.
As far as middle income, among the middle income earners, it's less than half. It's 46. It's split, and 46 have a favorable view, and 44% have an unfavorable view. I want to go to whites, because that's obviously important. That's about 70% of the electorate, And you look down here, and it's 40% favorable. And
What's
so
unfavorable?
the unfavorable is 47, so he's underwater.
He's underwater, and you know what? Those are not good numbers
No.
for the
Now,
party. Not that they're going to win among whites, but he's got to do better than a Democrat's going to have to do better than 40%.
to your point on Hispanic voters, he's got 51%
That's an improvement.
favorability to 39% unfavorability, which is really good.
Much better.
But I think this one is telling here. I think actually this is kind of a maybe a bellwether, the union vote. He doesn't even have. He's got 50% favorability among the union vote. I would expect that to be a little bit higher for a progressive.
Yeah. Remembering we still have emblazoned in our mind that the union vote is blue collar, when the reality is most of it overwhelmingly are public employees. And public employees usually tended to be on the liberal side, on the Democratic side. And finally, about blacks, I think that's going to be important.
Okay. Among black voters, okay, Bernie's got 68% favorability.
All right.
That's pretty huge.
Yeah, it is unfavorability.
19%.
Okay, so that's a considerable improvement. Okay, so Bernie's got legs. These rallies are helpful to the party, but they still need a body of ideas to represent how they would govern. And right now, I think they're still bankrupt on that. You know, the Republican Revolution that Newt Gingrich raised in 1994 was based on a contract with America, a body of principles. Democrats are going to have to do that. And maybe that's what we'll talk about in the future.
Yeah, well, I'll just part by saying I think that this is a good weekend for Democrats to reflect on how they can resurrect their party. And other than that, I would just say enjoy the holiday, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget to spread the word, to share this podcast. It's on multiple platforms. It's on SoundCloud. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. You could always just go to the website, johnzogbystrategies.com. Get it delivered directly to your email inbox by clicking on the contact button, and there's a prompt button for putting in your email, and then we'll send it right over automatically. Check us out on X, Zogby Strategies. And if you want to write to us about anything you heard, any questions you have, I'm Jeremy at johnzogbystrategies.com, and you're, of course, John at johnzogbystrategies.com. And otherwise, we'll see you next week with some newer data, actually. We should have some of our latest poll.
Okay, great. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye-bye.